Ohio State is recruiting like they want to sign the number one class in 2025, but if they're going to do it, they're going to have to overtake LSU. Now, it's early and the race for the top spot is wide open. The Buckeyes currently have 8 commitments, and today we got Alex Gleitman of Letterman Row on to talk about who could be next for Ryan Day in Ohio State. But first, Ohio State fans, do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We're talking Buckeyes all offseason. We want you to be a part of it, so hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on Alex Gleitman from Letterman Row. And as I said, Ohio State off to a great start this offseason. Not just the transfer portal, also getting it done at the high school level. And you wrote an article over the weekend previewing who could be the next to commit to Ohio State. Some big names here, and we'll start at the top with 5-star wide receiver Jamie French. You included him in the article, so Ohio State fans want to know, is he trending to the Buckeyes?
Yeah, I think, ever since last fall even, he took a visit for a game while he was committed to Alabama. And then obviously this offseason, Nick Saban retires, and then Jamie French backs off that commitment to Alabama. I don't think he is going to end up going to Alabama. I think it's probably, at this point, Ohio State or Florida State. Obviously, Florida State has the proximity on their side for the Jacksonville native. But Ohio State's done an excellent job here. It should be no surprise to anyone who's followed recruiting that they're firmly in the mix for a 5-star receiver. That's just kind of what they do. And Ryan Day's offense, the way Brian Hartline's recruited, his background, his pedigree, playing at Ohio State, playing in the NFL, being able to develop some really great receivers that have gone in the first round over the last few years. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. Should go at least in the top 5, if not the top 3 in this upcoming draft. So I think Ohio State has had momentum for a while. I do think that they're the leader. Now, my gut tells me he'll probably wait until he takes official visits in June and then make a decision before his senior season. But I was told it's not out of the question. If they get him up on campus in March or April for the spring game, visit goes great, that could be it. So I do think Ohio State has a lead over Florida State right now.
Yeah, and he would instantly become one of the pillars of that 2025 class. Ohio State already sitting at number 2, but adding Jamie French, it would kind of do to the class what adding Jeremiah Smith did last year early on. Very recognizable name. All right. Speaking of recognizable names, the next one, linebacker TJ Alfred, and he's on this list for obvious reasons because his decision is about 6 weeks away. He's going to do something at the end of March. We know Ohio State has been in a good spot for TJ Alfred, but Alex, who do you consider the top competition, and do you consider Ohio State the leader right now?
Yeah, I do think Ohio State's the leader. I put a recruiting prediction machine RPM pick in for Ohio State to land TJ Alford just a few weeks ago. I am even more confident in that pick today than I was then. Wow. Because Ohio State elevated James Laurinaitis, who's been kind of his primary lead recruiter, to the full-time linebacker coach position. And I think that Alford is really happy about that move. So I do think, come the end of March when he makes that decision, it's going to be Ohio State. He's going to be on campus about a week before that decision, March 22nd, 23rd, a 2-day visit to Columbus to take in spring practice, spend time with the staff, spend time with some other recruits and players and things like that. So I think that will basically solidify this. But this is one where, you ask who the second team is. I think it's Miami. At first, early on in this recruitment, it was maybe Florida. I do think it's Miami. I think the Hurricanes feel that even if they don't get him at the end of March, that they're going to continue to chase him all the way to National Signing Day. And we've seen what Miami has been able to do to Ohio State over the last few cycles and flipping guys late. So I think Ohio State knows that even if they get him in March, even if they don't get him in March, this one is not going to be over until he signs a letter of intent somewhere come December. So they'll continue to recruit him. Whether he commits or not, they'll continue to recruit him as if he's not committed. But I do think it's going to be Ohio State come the end of the next month when he does make that decision.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how the recruiting trail works. Like, it's not Ohio State's arch nemesis on the trail isn't necessarily Penn State or Michigan. It's been Miami. So TJ Alford trending to Ohio State right now, but Ohio State fans know if Miami's involved, nothing's ever safe. So we'll have to see how that one works out. Now, next on the list, you have tight end Nate Roberts. He is a dynamic pass catcher, a mismatch problem, and one of the top tight ends in the country. He's trending right now to Ohio State. What are you hearing in terms of when he could be ready to decide?
Yeah, I think Nate, he's kind of gone back and forth. Am I going to take official visits? Am I not? At times he said, I'm going to take them and then I'm going to make a decision. Now he's kind of in this framework of, whenever the time is right. And, that could be next week. It could be next month. It could be 6 months from now. Nate Roberts, I think, he committed to Notre Dame early. He backed off that pledge toward the end of the summer. I think ever since then, Ohio State has been the leader. I think they finished second the first time around. Home state Oklahoma is obviously in this one. They just got his brother as a transfer from Baylor, which certainly doesn't hurt them either. I think Oregon is the third team in this one, and they've done a really good job recruiting him. But Keenan Bailey, the tight ends coach at Ohio State, at this point, if he doesn't have an apartment in Washington, Oklahoma, I'd be shocked. He's been there so much. Literally every time he has the opportunity to hit the road and go there as much as possible within NCAA rules, he's been down in Washington, Oklahoma. He's been developing an incredible relationship with Nate Roberts, Ryan Day, Brian Hartline. They've all played a part in this thing. So I feel pretty good about where Ohio State stands. I do feel it's at this point kind of a matter of when, not if, he ends up committing to Ohio State. But again, Oregon, Oklahoma, they're going to continue to chase Nate Roberts. This is another one where I actually think more so than Jamie French. I feel like Jamie's going to probably take his official visits. With Nate Roberts, I could see, maybe an Oklahoma, Ohio State, Oregon official visit and then making a decision in early July or something like that, or end of June. But I kind of think, if and when Ohio State gets him back on campus this spring, he just, what he's been saying, he gets that feeling that this is it. There's no reason to continue this recruitment. So I think he's trying to be very careful, given that he was already committed once. He doesn't want to be that guy who commits again and then flips and all that stuff. So I think he's trying to be very careful and cautious with this, but I feel pretty good about Ohio State, and my RPM pick stands on that one.
All right. Now, you shook it up a little bit with the next prospect we're going to talk about, and that's safety Femi Delaney. He's out of good counsel in the DMV area, and the number 2 safety in America. I've been talking to Justin Hopkins over at Scoop Duck, our Oregon site, about him a lot, and it seemed like Delaney was leaning that way, but all of a sudden that Gleitman pick comes in for Femi Delaney to Ohio State. What are you hearing?
Yeah, I thought this one was slipping away from Ohio State at one point too. It looked really good for Ohio State, and then I guess middle of January-ish or so, they let go of Perry Eliano, who is the safeties coach and his lead recruiter at Ohio State. And when I spoke to Fahim offline, he basically said, "Yeah, this is going to have a meaningful impact on my recruitment, but I'm going to see who they hire. I'm going to see how I feel about them, and we'll go from there." And Matt Guerrieri came in. He's done a great job. Tim Walton, the cornerbacks coach, has continued to help there. Ryan Day has been very involved as well. And so I think Ohio State at one point maybe was slipping a little bit. Oregon had that window open, looked like, maybe they can make this thing happen. But I think that Ohio State has put this one back on track with Matt Guerrieri and Tim Walton kind of leading the way with Ryan Day helping out. I think Ohio State feels pretty good about where they sit right now. And I don't think this is a kid who wants to take it the whole distance. I think possibly the spring, maybe the summer, but he's been pretty clear. It's Ohio State and Oregon as his top 2 schools. I don't think this is a kid who needs to see 5 different schools, make all these official visits, do a little hat dance or whatever it is. I think he's handled this very businesslike. And so, he might get back to both of them in the spring and then make a decision, something along those lines. But right now I feel good enough in Ohio State and where they stand. And as I said, it was really just about that staff change and how did that really affect things. And I think for a couple of weeks, it looked like maybe it was going to slip away from them, but I think they've turned it around.
Yeah. And, Buckeyes are battling for that number 1 class, and a few of these, if any of these go in Ohio State's direction, it's definitely a step in the right direction for taking over LSU with the number 1 spot. So Alex Gleitman, we're going to be talking to you a lot this spring, but appreciate your appearance today on the Inside Scoop.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed that, go check out the hundreds of videos that we have on this channel, and also do me a favor, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel.